There we go. Sorry about that. Hello and welcome to another Tech Talk from the NAMI San Diego Tech Cafe. My name is Sten Walker. I'm the technology coordinator here. So right now I am using YouTube Live for the first time, and things might go a little wonky. You know, nobody's born knowing how to do these things. And so today we're going to be doing something pretty simple. Speaking of knowing things, I will be taking this cybersecurity knowledge quiz, and it's just 10 questions about just pertaining to cybersecurity. And at the end, it shows which bracket you're in of or like the standard deviation, or, you know, which percentile of the population you fall into of cybersecurity knowledge. Hopefully, we'll review it at the end. So either way, even going into this not knowing anything, coming out of it, I think scoring 100% gets, yeah, that's way above average. And you'll know it all because it corrects along the way, or at the end. So, cybersecurity knowledge. How much do you know about cybersecurity? Test your knowledge on cybersecurity topics and terms by taking our 10-question quiz. Then see how you did in comparison with the nationally represented group of 1,055 randomly selected adult internet users surveyed online between June 17th and June 27th last year. The survey was conducted by the GFK group using Knowledge Panel. Okay, so it's just the Americans. That's what we're comparing ourselves to. When you finish, you will be able to compare your scores with the average American and see explanations for the terms and topics in each question. The analysis of the findings from the poll can be found in the full report, What the Public Knows About Cybersecurity. Oh, that might make for a good sequel. Okay, so let us begin. Okay. Step 2 of 11. Okay, I guess step 1 is just clicking begin. Step 2 of 11. What does the HTTPS / at the beginning of a URL denote, as opposed to HTTP : / without the S? Well, I didn't even know what HTTP meant until fairly recently. It's just, it means Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and that's just computer jibber-jagger jargon to just let you know. It just sort of means I am on the internet. And URL is Universal Relay Line. Basically, it just means the website address up in the bar up there. So, okay, let's look at the options. Number 1, that the site has special high definition. Okay, that's pretty obviously not true. This is a cybersecurity quiz. I guess they couldn't think of many other options that could be kind of tricky, that start with an S and would throw people off. That information entered into the site is encrypted. Well, that's probably true. The next one says that the site is the newest version available. sites would always be the newest version available, wouldn't they? That doesn't make sense. How can you be there when it's not the newest one? Next option is that the site is not accessible to certain computers. I mean, that could be a contender if we're talking about security, or none of the above, or not sure. Well, I'm pretty sure it means that the information entered into the site is encrypted. Basically, the S just means secure. You'll normally see the HTTP, or you'll normally see the HTTPS if you are on a website that takes any sort of personal information or passwords. You can even go in and into the the bar up at the top, and you can just add in the S to the HTTP, and you can just have it all encrypted. So encryption basically means that it's scrambled up. Like, if someone saw it, if someone were looking, like using some device to sort of see the information that's being traded around, and they were trying to spy on what your password was, the information goes through an algorithm that just makes it look like just complete and utter nonsense. And the algorithms are so complex that the only way to decrypt it is to have another algorithm known as a key. And so it's pretty safe. Okay. So, step 3 of 11. Which of the following is an example of a phishing attack? Of the PH. So, basically, phishing is just when somebody... So it's called phishing because it's kind of like real phishing. These are quote-unquote cyber attacks, except it's more like angling off a dock than it is hunting for Moby Dick. If someone can become a target of phishing just by being on the internet, but it just takes a little bit of knowledge to be able to spot them. Basically, they pretend to be someone that they're not and try to bait someone into giving them information that would be not so smart to give out. You know, like your bank PIN or your passwords to this or that, Social Security, etc. So let's look and see which of the following is an example of someone pretending to be something that they're not. Sending someone an email that contains a malicious link that is disguised to look like an email from someone the person knows. That is pretty unambiguously phishing. People will pretend to be okay, so sometimes when emails are sitting around for a very long time, just unused, like let's say your great uncle made an email and then just doesn't use it. When emails sit there for a long time, they become really, really, really easy for a hacker to compromise. So someone could take over that email and send out to their friends and relatives posing as that person. That's not so uncommon. Next option is creating a fake website, that's an ingredient, that looks nearly identical to a real website in order to trick users into entering their login information. This is another classic. Logos aren't... One can just copy and paste like the PayPal logo and just simulate the same kind of web page and just have the option for people to enter in, try to log in with their login information, but instead of letting them gain access to their PayPal account, it will actually just send the information just to some guy's computer. It'll not quite do what you want it to do. And another one, sending someone a text message that contains a malicious link that is disguised to look like a notification that the person has won a contest. Yeah, that's another classic. That is a very, very old tactic. I'm sure any of you who were around in the early 2000s, late 90s internet, where everything would stop and there would be confetti going around the web page, and it says, "Congratulations, you are the 1 millionth visitor." That is another bait. So those are all examples. That is definitely all the above. So a group of computers that is networked together and used by hackers to steal information is called well, we know it's not operating system, because that's just like Windows 10 or Linux or Macintosh and stuff and such. That is a different thing altogether. DDoS is like this tactic. It's more like it's a tactic where people sort of spam a website until it crashes, I think. I'm not totally sure. Rootkit, that's a spooky one. Those are the tools needed to remotely take over someone else's computer. So your computer just sort of acts like it's dead and it won't react to anything you do, but someone else has access to that computer and they are more than likely using it to commit some sort of crime. Normally, if somebody's forcefully borrowing a computer, it isn't it isn't for charity. Anyways, a group of computers that is networked together and used by hackers to steal information is called a botnet. The main giveaway: net, computers, networked together. All right. The next one. Some websites and online services use a security process called the two-step authentication. Which of the following images is an example of the two-step authentication? Well, two-step means that it usually wants like your phone number and email to sort of double verify. It's just sort of another way to prove that you are actually a person and not just a bot, just a spam bot trying to make a fake email address. It would pretty much look like this, where you would enter in your phone number. They send a text message to your phone of a code that expires in 10 minutes. So you would have to get a lot of phones to make a lot of fake accounts. So we'll select that. This here, it is not a two-step. It is a CAPTCHA. It says so right here. These are getting more and more obnoxious. It's another means of making sure that it's not a bot that is making the profile. Robots can't read that. Security question. That's a security question. Stuff like what's your mother's maiden name, just really obscure things. Some of them are a bit misguided, like who was your best friend in high school? It's like I don't pick favorites. I'm sorry. And then confirm your security image and keyword. Yeah, that is not two-step. Beep. Oh, this is fun. Which of the following 4 passwords is the most secure? So there are a couple different elements to a secure password. One of the main things for making a strong password these days is a mix of capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers and symbols. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is absolutely terrible. That is in order. It's obvious. It's not varied at all. It is just, I mean, even just scrambling those numbers would make it better. Not that much better, but a little bit better. But just to go into numeric order like that, okay, I'll put it this way. The number one most commonly hacked password is the word password. The number two is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this person went an extra step and made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it is still not very secure. Let's see. So, this one has lowercase letters and a symbol and 2 numbers. It's significantly better than this one. This one over here, the word boat capitalized in 1, 2, 3. That's okay. The capitalization helps, but most everybody, if they're going to capitalize something, they capitalize the first letter, and that's just a word, and then 1, 2, 3. And remember, we don't want the ascending numbers. So the answer is pretty much this one. Just with exclamation 5s. It's nonsensical. No one would ever guess that. Even if they knew the WTH and the exclamation and the 5 and the Z, they have the W and the T capitalized and the Z capitalized, and there's just an exclamation in the middle. This is just some beautiful nonsense that is very, very secure. Is much more secure than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in all of these. So yeah. Okay. Step 7 of 11. Criminals access someone's computer and encrypt the user's personal files and data. The user is unable to access this data unless they pay the criminals to decrypt the files. This practice is called, well, we just established that it isn't botnet. Definitely isn't spam. Spam is just sort of junk, unwanted emails. Let's see. Driving. I know it's ransomware. I forgot what driving is exactly. But anyways, yeah, it's ransomware. I mean, that's just, it's in the name. Yeah, this is a really mean one. They will lock your computer down and just encrypt it, so it's just nonsense. You can't access anything. Nothing makes any sense. Nothing works. And they have the key. They have the algorithm that will decrypt it. And yeah, they'll get you by holding it ransom. User's name, access to analyst. Yeah, paying the criminal. That's just the definition. I'll look up what driving means though. I think it might mean brute forcing. I'm not sure. Okay, step 8 of 11. Private browsing, in quotations, is a feature in many internet browsers that lets users access web pages without any information, like browsing history, being stored by the browser. Can internet service providers see the online activities of their subscribers when those subscribers are using private browsers? This one is, if you've ever used private browsing, it's pretty obvious. Well, on some browsers, it just straight up tells you, no. The answer is yes. They can still see it. There are some browsers that just tell you, hey, this. I know this says private mode, but it's just sort of more private from the history and the cookies and such. The person who's providing the internet, you're not gonna be able to hide from them. Sorry, I know it's a bummer, but you know, it's one of the perks of being your own internet provider. Step 9 of 11. Turning off the GPS function of your smartphone prevents any tracking of your phone's location. I'm sorry, this is false. So, okay, step 10 of 11. If a public Wi-Fi network, such as an airport or cafe, requires a password to access, it is generally safe to use that network for sensitive activities such as online banking. Well, it's much better than if it doesn't have a password. You know, like somebody could just drive into a McDonald's and speaking of, I just remembered what driving means. That is, they drive around looking for insecure Wi-Fi hotspots, I think, and use that to do something. It has something to do with actual cars. Anyways, so this one's tricky. General safety. I'm gonna say no. It's better if it doesn't have a password, but not, you know, perfect. Okay. The final question. What kind of cybersecurity risks can be minimized by using a virtual private network? Use of insecure Wi-Fi networks, key logging, de-autonomization of network operations, or phishing attacks. Well, private security Wi-Fi is this one. Okay, so that was all correct. Let's see. See below. So most people, wow, I guess they answered not sure for a lot of them, but most people are, yeah, that's definitely skewed that way. Oh man, 1, right. So most people get like 3, 4, 5 right out of 10. But hey, now that you have watched this and you know all this stuff, you are amongst the 1%. That means if you meet someone on the street, there is a 99% chance that you know more about cybersecurity than they do. How about them apples? So yeah, what does the HTTPS blah 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 blah? So yeah, the correct answer is the information is encrypted. Encrypting information entered into a website makes it far more difficult for anyone other than the user and the website owner to read the information. As of February this year, around half of all internet traffic is now encrypted. Yeah, because such a huge amount has to do with login information. So yeah. So number 2, that one was pretty easy. Phishing attacks. I mean, I can imagine somebody getting it wrong by not understanding like how the umbrella term of phishing, because it's just, you know, offering someone to take the bait, basically, while posing as something they're not. Phishing attacks attempt to get a user to click on a malicious link or file by impersonating a trusted source the user is familiar with. And all three, yep. So yeah, the correct answer was botnet for number 3. A rootkit is a type of malicious software designed to gain unauthorized access to a computer system. DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service. It is an attack where large amounts of requests are sent to a web server in order to overwhelm the server and shut it down. Okay, so some websites and online services use a security process called the two-step. Yeah. This is the only example of a two-step authentication listed. True two-step authentication requires the user to enter a one-time code each time they log into their account. Oh, okay. So that's what that, okay. It's more narrow than I thought it was. While the other answers may require users to perform 2 separate operations to gain to site, they're not examples of two-step authentication. Okay, that's a key detail. Just because it's an authentication that has 2 steps in it, it doesn't mean that it's a two-step authentication. Interesting. Which of the following 4 passwords is the most secure? And heck yep, it's with the 5Z. So this password contains the basic elements of a strong password recommended by experts. It contains a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. It includes both upper and lowercase letters, and and does not contain any words from the dictionary. For more information on creating strong passwords, see. Might go there later. So, yeah, ransomware. That was obvious. Driving is short for war driving, which is a technique where hackers drive around an area looking for insecure Wi-Fi networks. Haha, I knew it. One on private browsing. Yeah, so private browsing prevents the user's internet browser from storing certain kinds of files on his or her device. However, internet service providers can still see all the details, and they gotta come up with a better name for private browsing, honestly. Just like anti-cookie history mode. I don't know, because that's just borderline misleading. Anyways, now you know that at least. Yeah, I have issues with that. Turning off the GPS function of your smartphone prevents any tracking of your phone's location. Nope. In addition to GPS, smartphones can also be tracked using cell phone towers or Wi-Fi networks that the phone is connected to. Yeah. So yeah, it ain't all about the global positioning service system. There's other ways. If you want to be off the grid, just turn it off. So, if a public Wi-Fi network, blah, 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 requires a password, remember this. So, the answer to this, even if a public Wi-Fi network requires a password, other users can potentially view the sensitive information of a user sends across that Wi-Fi network. For more information, see how to stay safe on public Wi-Fi. That gives me a webinar idea. Anyways. So it's not like the host was going to really be malicious, but it's just like maybe other users are there trying to take a peep at what's going on. So what kind of cybersecurity risk can be minimized by using a virtual private network? A VPN allows users to create an encrypted connection between their devices and the internet, making it much harder for anyone other than the user to see their activity. That's pretty self-explanatory. Anyways, that is the cybersecurity knowledge quiz. Judging by the statistics here, I'm guessing at least a handful of viewers have learned something today. If you're amongst the 1%, congratulations. So, thank you for stopping by, and I'll come out with more tech talk webinars soon. Thanks.